Let's talk about emerging tech and the new opportunities that are brought about by the new wave of defense tech. To speak about this in a conversation, I'm very pleased to invite defense tech founder Hamutal Meridor and Rona Segev, co-founder and managing partner of TLV Partners. Please.
מישהו נשאר?
Hello. Okay, so my name is Rona Segev, and I'm a partner with TLV Partners, and I'm very happy to have with me Hamutal Meridor. He's the founder and CEO of a stealth company, startups. Can we share the name?
We haven't publicly said it yet.
Okay, so stealth company. So I've known Hamutal for around 6 or 7 years. And my first question is around actually kind of your career path, which is really unusual. You started as an entrepreneur, right? Then moved to have an amazing career in the defense industry, becoming the GM of Palantir Israel. Then moved to the dark side to become a late-stage VC and actually investor in funds, and you invested in our fund, TLV Partners. And then kind of closed the round and became an entrepreneur again in the defense industry. So I never asked you, okay, and I think this is the right forum, kind of what happened? Why go back after all of those years and those career turns into being an entrepreneur in the defense industry?
I think you have to kind of be crazy to do that, which apparently I am. Also, I basically think I was always an entrepreneur. I just didn't find my calling until the world kind of, became nuts. Also, I met my co-founder, which I just told you. Sometimes you need the right person. I mean, always you need the right person along for the ride. But really, if I look back at my career, basically I always did what felt right and what I was interested in. And if it no longer felt right, I just left. So sometimes people thought I was like zigzagging, but I always stayed true to my compass, and I had like a one direction, I guess. Basically, I feel like the 20 years of my career have led me to this point with all the different experiences I've had at Palantir as an entrepreneur, as an investor. So really, I feel like I was basically continuing my path. I don't know why it looked differently to people outside my own head.
Okay, cool. If I look a year ago, even 2 years ago, investing in defense was a big no-no for VCs. There was no chance, there was no exits, you can't sell, it's too complicated. And suddenly, a year ago, it started to be interesting. We actually made 2 investments, which for us, okay, we are a very deep tech kind of innovative fund. So it's a bit weird even for us as VCs. So what changed? Why is it so hot right now? Why do we see so many people here? Not here specifically, but outside, yeah.
So it's funny. So I actually started at I was at Palantir. Obviously, I knew defense tech was a thing, and no one got it outside of Palantir. So we were in like our own little bubble. And 10 years ago, I joined Palantir. Then I saw my friends leave Palantir and start Anduril, which obviously became like this juggernaut very quickly. Yeah, of course. It's like ex-Palantir folks. And then when I was at Vintage, so 2 years ago, I actually started with Noah, who's now working with me somewhere here. We started building a defense tech investment thesis because we were seeing defense kind of rising in the Valley, in the Bay Area, or in the US, and actually worldwide because of the war with Ukraine. So I always joke, I don't know if it's kind of the investors realized there's a real need because the war with Ukraine very much made that clear, or if they saw the opportunity because they're investors. But either way, they started investing in, so Vintage, as you said, is a fund that invests in funds, and an investor in Andreessen Horowitz and General Catalyst and Lightspeed, and all these funds started spinning up defense practices and started investing in defense. And also the talent in the Bay Area started kind of flocking towards defense. When I was at Palantir, we used to have demonstrations outside our offices, and now the talent thought it was cool again. And so that was very much happening in the US, and Israel was very much kind of dormant and didn't see it happening at all, which is a little sad because, you know, we're obviously surrounded by enemies and we know what war is. I mean, even before, you know, 15 months ago on October 6th, we knew what it was. I think a lot of it is because, I mean, multiple reasons. I think historically, defense has been very hard in Israel and not the best talent went there. And it was much, I don't know if easier, because starting a company isn't easy, but like going to cyber, going to work at Google and Meta was a lot, I don't know, nicer than going into defense and explaining the world why you're, I don't know, developing defense or even offensive systems. What's amazing, so again, I saw it happening in the Valley, and I thought Israel should be a leader in this, because like we actually have the highest density in defense tech talent in the world. Everyone goes to the military. The military actually gets its pick of the best engineers and goes and trains them to be R&D for, you know, military purposes. So how come Israel isn't a leader in this? And unfortunately, it took, you know, a war and everything that we've gone through the past 15 months for Israelis to wake up, but I think it's the right time. So there's huge opportunity, and I think what's really, what I've seen over the past 6 months since we started the company is this theory of having the best talent in defense. Now they actually all are looking for purpose and meaning after October 7th, and they're all just, not all, I mean, there's still good people going to cyber, and it's important and it's good, but a lot of the best people are actually trying to find something with meaning, and often that's defense, because they've seen how broken everything is in the battlefield, and there's a lot to build.
That's actually an amazing phenomenon that we see. We saw this group, which for me is the cream of the people, starting healthcare companies, trying to do something good in the world, and now they're coming to defense out of Zionism and kind of having a meaning and trying to really help. Another thing which is kind of surprising to me is that 10 years ago, even 10 years ago, the most innovative technologies came out of the army, of kind of the defense industry. From time to time, they would release something which would shock the industry. And it seems that like they were really left behind in the last 10 years, and maybe more even, and it took some time to realize. But right now we see a lot of innovation centers, and we see a lot of willingness actually to be introduced to new technologies. So what do you think really happened there?
I think, so a lot. It's multifaceted. I think, yes, the origins of Silicon Valley and you know, technology in general are in DARPA and, you know, R&D for the military. Today, I would say the equation is, I mean, there are still amazing things being built inside kind of the armies and institutions, but the equation quite drastically flipped. It's both technologies that became, so the commercial markets and capitalism turns out actually works. So if you look at every product, I mean, at least it did for the past few decades. That's where we're headed. But if you look at commercial or civilian products that have an alternative in the military sphere, the military equivalent is always 2 to 3 orders of magnitude more expensive, and actually far worse. Like if you look even at a camera, like surveillance camera that you put on the border, the ones that Hezbollah shot on October 8th, they were huge. They were mounted on poles. They were like 15 years old, so they weren't as good as the cameras made today, and they were just far more expensive. And once they shot them down, you know, soldiers got donations or whatever, and they went and just like put cameras kind of off the shelf, Chinese cameras. that cost like a fraction and are much better and smaller, so you can actually chew them down. And so you see that trend happening. And if you look at both Israel and Ukraine, the two kind of live theaters of war that we have right now in the world, you see all these commercial products just flocking into the battlefield. And it's not that we don't have the option not to use them because our adversaries are using them, and then they're just changing the face of the battlefield. So you have, instead of like big, expensive, I don't know, F-35, which is still very much needed, I know, but you have armies of cheap, attritable drones that are just, it's a different kind of warfare. So I think that's another thing. And I think the last thing is AI just became AI and edge computing. So the compute is becoming much more powerful, smaller, and AI models are becoming much better. They can do a lot more that we can't even imagine probably at this point. And so all of that put together is just, it's a step change. And I think AI is going to change every facet of our lives, but in the military world.
And two things that are really, really worrying for me as an investor, and I would like kind of you to calm me down if you can. One of them is regulation, okay? Regulation, okay? Kind of, I'm coming from industries that no one can tell me whether I can sell outside of Israel or not. What can I sell? What if I cannot sell? This is something which is kind of a bit scary, like a cloud. And another one is exit strategy. So we haven't seen a lot of exits, and not a lot of big exits, or multiples. How do you sell companies? How do you exit companies? This is a crucial component in our investments, and it's unclear right now.
Yeah, two great questions. So regulation is definitely, I wouldn't say a problem, but a challenge. Going back to your question of why innovation hasn't been so quick in the defense world, because that's a big part of it, regulation and how procurement is done and how the businesses are being, the business models of the defense world. So I'm pretty sure a lot of people here in the audience know this, but Palantir had to sue the US Army when it was still its client. The lawsuit took 7 years. They ended up winning. And basically what they sued the Army for, the Army had its own kind of Palantir Gotham equivalent that they spent $4 billion on. No one was using it. And at the same time, Palantir was selling its product to SOCOM, to different, divisions there, and people were using it. But the government refused to make it a program of record for Palantir. They said they wanted their own. And so after 7 years in court, while suing your own customer, Palantir won. And ever since, the US Army, by law now, has to check if, for every program of record, they have to check if there's not an existing commercial off-the-shelf product that they can use. And I think, and it's drastic and it's crazy to see your customer. Elon Musk did the same with NASA, by the way, and SpaceX. I think drastic measures need to be taken to change regulation. I actually think, we like to think we're special in Israel. We're not that special. We have the same problem like everyone else. It's a problem. I think our advantage, which is something we should try to capitalize on, is we're small, we're much more agile, we're also at war, which makes things, move more quickly in government. And I think it's the right time now to try and change it, and then kind of be a model to the world of, hey, this is how it should be done, not the old way, which kind of hindered innovation and stopped innovation from coming into the battlefield. So that's on regulation. I'm an optimist always, so I think it can be changed. It'll be hard, but it can be changed. And we also have to. I think the urgency is kind of, we don't actually have an option. And the exit strategy, that's a big question. I think a lot of the companies that we see, sadly, I'm going to maybe bum some people. I think a lot of the companies we see kind of spinning out now, I'm not sure what their exit strategy is, to be honest. Some will, like any wave of kind of, there's hype around defense tech. Don't know if you've noticed with the amount of people outside. So some of these companies are not going to make it, and that's fine. I do think we have a few big companies that are like the new Lockheeds. So hoping Anduril will be one of them, but I think there are a few large primes worldwide that are going to spin up, and they're not only going to be American. I think we have a good shot at having at least one of those, and then it can buy all the rest of the Israeli company.
Yeah, it takes a while until they start buying. Amen. Though we made 2 investments, so we are also cautiously optimistic. Thank you, guys. They're saying to me that we need to go down. So thank you for
Thanks.
staying.